Hi, everybody. Welcome to Key 17 Tarot. My name is Hannah. That's Wilbur. And this is a review on the Wild Unknown Tarot 5 or 6 years after the fact. So, this really isn't so much a review as much as it is a retrospective. I've actually been working with this deck for going on 6 years, and it was actually my first tarot deck, as it was the first deck for a lot of people out there. I have found that this deck is maybe not the greatest for beginners in that 6 years of learning tarot. I recently began to revisit it, and although I made some really great memories with this deck and learned a lot about reading tarot and about accessing my intuition, my subconscious mind, about looking for symbolism in tarot cards, I think that I really should have started out with the traditional Rider-Waite-Smith deck as I began my tarot journey. But I was so swayed by Instagram whenever I first entered this community. I saw this deck everywhere on people's feeds, and I thought it was so beautiful, and I loved the line work, and the colors really spoke to me. And I have no regrets on starting out with this deck, but I do wish that I had maybe done a little bit more research before I bought it as my first deck to really study. When I say that I don't think it's great for beginners, I absolutely don't mean that to say that a beginner couldn't pick up this deck and start reading it, because it actually very much is a deck that can be read intuitively. Even though it is a more Marseille style deck, so there are pips in the minors, those minors are illustrated in such a way that you can really intuit what's going on or what the meaning of the card is. A lot of the imagery, despite its simplicity, I find that Kim Kranz is very intentional with her artwork, with her use of color and her line work. And although it is very simple, it's very easy to glean the meaning from. It really is a kind of deck that encourages you to tap into your subconscious and to analyze what's going on in the card. It makes you think. And for that reason, I find that it's very useful whenever you want to do really deep excavatory readings for yourself. This is not the kind of deck that you're going to want to use for a daily draw. I mean, you could use it for a daily draw, but if you're looking for like just a quick, what's the vibe of the day kind of feeling, this isn't it. Because what I have found is whenever I use it for my daily draws, I end up writing pages and pages and pages in my tarot journal, because somehow this daily draw has triggered something inside of my brain that won't shut up, and suddenly I'm doing deep healing work, and it's not even 6 o'clock in the morning yet, and I'm crying, and I have to be at work like in 30 minutes. I also find that it is not, for me anyway, it is not the best deck to use for traditional reading for like other people. You can certainly use it that way. Again, for me though, this is strictly the deck that I use whenever I need to be alone with myself, whenever I need to get really clear about my thoughts, if I've been feeling very anxious, or if I can't quite find the root of why I'm feeling a certain way. This is a deck that will be great to get to the root causes of that. This is such a good deck to use if you want to understand more about yourself, the way that you experience your emotions, the way that you experience your thoughts, the way that your brain works. Where the art is so simplistic, it really invites you to use your brain, to get your brain on the symbolism, and to really think analytically about what's going on. And by the way, I have modified this deck. I trimmed it and rounded the corners, and I've also edged it in black. I need to actually go over it again with Sharpie, but I'm going to do a walkthrough of the deck after. If you're just here for the walkthrough of the trimmed deck, I'll leave a timestamp below for you. Now, another reason why I would not necessarily recommend this deck for a beginner, and this is kind of the main reason for me, it is, like I said, it's a Marseille-based deck, so you're not going to have the traditional imagery that you would see in the Rider-Waite-Smith Tarot. But also, the guidebook, although it's very helpful, this honestly feels like its own system of tarot. The meanings are not going to be exactly the same as what you would find in a Rider-Waite deck. And if you're beginning with tarot, you're going to find, of course, that the Rider-Waite-Smith is sort of like the basis for most tarot decks out there. And I found whenever I was ready to start using other tarot decks, I had a hard time actually learning the Rider-Waite system because I was so used to the Wild Unknown and the meanings in this deck. With that being said, if this is a deck that is going to be your one and only, it's a great option. The guidebook is pretty good. I find that there are certainly more informative guidebooks out there, but if you're just looking to get started, this is a perfect guidebook. Always really great quality from the Kim Cran's guidebooks. I have all of her other decks except for the Alchemy Oracle that recently came out, and I've always been just so impressed with the quality of the boxes, the card stock, and especially the guidebooks. You're getting like a full book here. It's actually like a book size with thick paper. Um, Definitely a far cry from a lot of like little white books that are included in a lot of decks. She goes into at the beginning, before she gets into the keywords and the meanings, she talks about how to read the court cards. She talks about the elemental associations with the minor arcana, what they mean, and she also gives you some spreads that are pretty nice. She sort of gives you ideas of how to shuffle the deck and how to cut the deck. If you're brand new to tarot and you don't know about the proper way, the procedure, I should say, this is a great little read. So definitely take a look at that. With that being said, though, I don't really use the guidebook with this deck anymore. I find that I like this deck more whenever I use it intuitively, completely intuitively. Of course, drawing on my knowledge of what Kim intends for the meanings to be, and also drawing on my Rider-Waite-Smith knowledge as well. I kind of have a combined system going in my head for this deck. But um, I do find that I get more out of it whenever I read just intuitively. And I also find that I have more fun with it that way too, simply because I find that the way that the art is, I mean, it just feels like it reads so much better to me whenever I read intuitively. So this is the Six of Swords. Yes, and the Six of Swords is the card about moving on from something that a situation that's been causing you a lot of grief in the traditional Rider-Waite. I'll try to put like a little image of it up here. You know, we have a lady who's in a boat and she's sailing away from something. And I feel like this is a beautiful representation of that. It's almost like this is the core essence of what that card is. It's simplified down into its most bare parts. And I find that Kim really does such a great job of that. You've got all of these swords, they're in shadow and it's dark, but if you look up, there's a rainbow. You know, it's like moving towards the light. It's letting go of something. It's cutting your losses. It's finding hope in the hopeless. I find that since I've been reading this deck for so long, the meanings, the keywords, they come pretty easily to me, but I will say that for a long time I really did struggle with this deck. Um, Even though I was able to pick it up and kind of glean the meanings. Again, the art is so simple, and For me, I find that the less distracting the artwork is, the better. I can really kind of tune everything else out and just focus on what I'm seeing right in front of me. Um, but it for me, I struggled because it is very nature and animal based. And obviously, as a witch, I have a deep appreciation for nature, but nature and animal energy has always been kind of difficult for me to interpret, especially in tarot. I'm very much an incense and candles and crystal energy sort of witch, but um, I just find it really difficult to connect to animals. And the court cards, they're all animals. So the wands are snakes, which is cool. The cups are swans. The swords are owls, and the pentacles are deer. And I will say that I agree with Kim's the animals that she picked for each suit, but it is hard for me to connect to that. Like whereas like a portrait, say, of a human King of Pentacles or a human Queen of Cups, I could much more easily interpret than say a deer. And that's just me, obviously. I mean, you can still get a sense of exactly what the court card is about or what the personality of the court card is based on, her use of line work, color, etc. But if you are someone like me that doesn't necessarily connect instantly with nature, animal energy, that is something to keep in mind. I do have Kim's Wild Unknown Animal Spirit Oracle. I've worked with it a little bit, but I really don't work with it very often because of that. And that's something that I want to work on more as my practice grows. I'd like to connect more with animal and nature energy, but right now it's just not really my thing. So the voice of this deck, I love talking about the voice of decks. Um, like I said, I do approach tarot from a skeptical, secular, atheist sort of point of view, the same with my witchcraft. But I do love to kind of assign human traits to my tarot decks. I just think it's a lot of fun. I find that the voice of this deck is like that of a grandmother, and not necessarily the kind of grandmother who, smothers you with hugs and kisses and cookies as soon as you walk through the door. This is more of a grandmother that's a little distant and a little aloof. Like, the love is absolutely there, but she's a regal kind of grandmother. She's a grandmother that has a lot of dignity and makes a point to let you know whenever she thinks you've done something kind of undignified. And I don't mean to say that like it's a preachy sort of deck, because it's not, but it is very blunt. If you need to be told the truth about something, she will tell you. She will tell you. But on the other hand, if you are feeling really down on yourself and you need like a genuine message of hope, this is a great deck for that. Whenever I first began reading for myself, I had also coincidentally just moved out on my own. I had left my parents' religion and I felt very lost. And the very first tarot card that I ever drew was like the star, which is about hope and dreams and wishes. And it felt so poignant and beautiful at the time. And the star in this deck was actually one of my first stalker cards. I could do a reading where this deck absolutely kicked me in the seat of my pants, and I would end it by pulling the star, which is kind of like it felt like a hang in there, kid, kind of moment, which was really nice. And I still think very fondly of my early memories with this deck, and um, it really helped me grow my tarot practice. It helped me grow my intuition and really helped me learn a lot about myself. So that's the Wild Unknown. That is my experience with it. That's my relationship with it. I would say, bottom line, if you're a beginner, maybe stay away from this deck if you want to read in other systems. But if this is going to be your one and only, go for it. I'm going to go ahead and switch to an overhead view so that way you can see what my trimmed, modified version of this deck looks like in full. please comment if you have any questions or you need me to clarify anything. Please let me know. I'm so excited to be here, by the way. Thank you for giving me your time and energy and listening to this, or watching this, whatever you're doing. I will hopefully see you very soon. Thank you so much. Bye, guys.